Thursday Daf Ayin Tes. And we learned in the Mishnah if you sold a donkey, it includes also the foal, the baby donkey. If you said I'm selling you a lactating donkey, but if you sell the para, then the calf is not included with it. Then the Mishnah says if you sell the ashpa, the tip, you sell along with it all the excrement from the animals, the zivla. If you sell a boir, the water in it is sold with it. If you sell a beehive, the bees are sold with it, and you sell a dovecot, the pigeons are sold with it. Now, says the Gemara, we are up to Ayin Tes on Aleph. The Gemara starts with the 2 dots, about 8 lines from the top of the page. Mochar ashpa mochar zvola. Tanan hasam. Now, we are going to discuss if you make hegdish. Now, remember, Rab Shimon said that hegdish is treated no different than an ordinary sale. Moicher ba'ayin ra moicher, you're makdish ba'ayin ra makdish. Otherwise, the other Tanaim will hold that by hegdish, you're much more gracious, you're much more generous. Now, by hegdish, we have 2 situations where you makdish a boir full of water, and you makdish a boir without any water. And the question is, a makdish a boir full of water is, and I'm saying, all I said was, I'm being makdish the boir. Does the water also become hegdish or not? And then there's another situation where there was no water in the boir at the time, and you have makdish the boir, and later the boir collects water. What's the status of that water? So we're going to find there's machlekes everywhere, as we will see. Says the Gemara, Tanan Hasa Ayin Tes. We're going to learn 2 blocks today and take a pause. Everybody can stay with pleasure. If you can't, you can't. But this will take up through to Friday's Gemara. Tanan Hasam, we learned over there. Kol harayu lemizbeach. If you're makdish an animal which can be used for the mizbeach, you cannot be makdish it for bedek habayis. It has to be mukdish for the mizbeach. Anything which is suitable for mizbeach, but bedek habayis, an animal, living animal, can use it for building the base of mikdash. Or lebedek habayis and lemizbeach, things which are suitable for the bedek habayis and mizbeach. As we'll see later, let's say water. Water, you can make cement and build something, but you cannot use ordinary water for the mizbeach, because this chamaim has to be mayim chaim, has to be spring water, and the water that you wash the animals with has to be water from the Amasa Mayim, the creek that runs through the base of mikdash. What about loyal mizbeach or bedek habayis? Then you have things that are not suitable for anything. It's purely kedushas damim. You're donating this thing, and the value, the business, the will sell it and use the money for whatever they need maintenance. In all of these cases, if you made it hegdish, if somebody uses it for their own purpose, they are stealing, and you have to bring an asham me'ilus, a special carbon, and you pay also the penalty. Behen, and the principle, behen uva mesheteichen. Not only in moil in the thing, for example, the boil. Not only you moil on the boil, but you also boil on the water as well. Taste. Now that it will spell it out. Heat you makish a boil full of water. Ashpa is malaya zevel. Tips and full of excrement, full of birds, a field with grass. Now, field with grass is a little bit different than the other ones. The water in the bird did not come from the bird. It came from outside source, but now it's sitting in the bird. Same thing with the birds. But grass is coming directly from the sada. So in other words, in a way, there's more reason to say that the grass itself becomes hegdish if you're makdish the field, because the grass came from the hegdish. We'll see. Or Elan Nosipatus, a tree bearing fruits. If the tree was, if you makdish the tree, then the fruits came directly. They're called the gedulim for hegdish. So we'll see over here. Moilim bahen uva meshabatayich. In all of these cases, you moil not only the boy, you're also moiling the water. And surely you moil in the grass and the fruits. Aval higdish boy. Now this is all talking about it was the water was there already at the time. Because it was there at the time, I was makdish the boy, even though I didn't mention a word about the water, it's automatically included. Excuse me. But what about hikdish boil? Because we say that the water is tuffle to the boil and it's included. What about I was makdish a boil and the water only came afterwards? Does the water become hegdish? Or ashpa zevel? Or the zevel, the excrement came in afterwards? Or the birds flew in afterwards? Or ilam achar of the pedis, the fruits grew afterwards. In all of these cases, moilim behen, the ain't moilim ba mesha b'teichen. You're not moilim b'teichen. Why not? Because it's like a dover shalom b'loilim. At the time when I was makdish, they didn't exist, and you cannot be makdish a dover shalom b'loilim. Okay, that's a theme across all of these cases here. And you would ask, what about the chotzer? If the boir belongs to hegdish, and now the water falls on the boir, why doesn't the water belong now to hegdish and becomes hegdish? Because of chotzer. So Teis Nashbam and a number of Shainim say that hegdish does not have the din of chotzer. because weedy chotza adds chotzim shem yodis raboy he motzi to motzi biyoda. We learn out his hand. Hegdish has no hand, so therefore doesn't have chotza. Just because it's sitting in the boil of a hegdish does not automatically make the water hegdish. Okay, true. Rabbi Yasi Eimer, they're being poetic. Rabbi Yasi Eimer, Rabbi Yasi says he disagrees, and what we don't know is he disagreeing on everything that he said, or just on the last two, the tree that bears the fruits and the field that grieves the sand, because that's Gedule Hegdish, and maybe that there's more reason there to say that even though it wasn't there at the time, it's Hegdish. Rabbi Yasi says. Hamagdish is a vesilan moiling behen ubi gedule. We're gross on them. Gedule hegdish. Now it's not clear yet. We'll discuss in the Gemara what he's arguing, and everything was just these two. The problem of davar shalab ala olam. So the Shemay talk about it. How do the fruits become hegdish? Remember, Amei is the one who says that a davar shalab olam becomes you can be makna. And even though the Gemara Hamafkid and other places we say, and we use the example of dekel lepeirosa, I'm selling you the fruits of the palm tree. Rameir actually never said that. Rameir only talks about, we had the Mishnah Kedushin there. If a person says to a woman, after I become a ger, I want you to be Mekudesh to me. Or after I get freed, or you get freed, or you become a ger, you're Mekudesh to me. So that's a davar shalab ala olam. But over there, you have a little bit of control. It's up to you. Or as the Rashbam says, for a fact, as we'll discuss it. But anyway, so they're trying to talk about how is it that it's not a problem of davar shalab ala olam. Yeah, but that's only the mayor who holds Avidya the Osli, because it will come. But according to Chamin, there's nothing for it to be chala. Nevertheless, it works over here. we say it's as if you said that the boy. We'll see anymore later. Tanya, we learned. Rebbe said. Now, Rebbe said, needing divrei Rabbi Yehuda. I like the words of Yehuda when it comes to boy Shayvich. In other words, the water is not included. Any water that came in later is not hegdish. And I like the words of Rabbi Yasi beside Ilan that the fruits are hegdish. Sounds like from what Rabbi is saying is that they're arguing everywhere. And I'm passing like Rabbi here and Rabbi Yasi here. But if you look at the Braisa, it seems Rabbi Yasi is only arguing in the case of the Ilan and the Sod. He's not arguing everywhere else. So what's he saying needed? Hi, Mike. What's going on here? When he said, I like what Rabbi Yehuda says, I'm only limiting what I like what he says by Bava Basra Daf. Why? Because he argues in everywhere. But I'm not going to pass him like him everywhere else. I'm only going to pass him at Bava Basra. When it comes to Ilan, I'm not going to pass him like him. I'm going to go like Rabbi Yasi. Fine. Miklau the Polar Sod of Ilan. When you say I like what Rabbi Yasi says, it sounds like what you're saying is, but I don't like what he says by the other ones. But he's not arguing. Miklau the Polar Bava Basra. What Rabbi Yasi said of Ilan, he only mentions Sod of Ilan. I ain't even know. Rabbi Yasi maybe really argues on everything. How come he only highlights Sod Vilon? He's using that as an argument to Chachamim. Okay, Chachamim, I understand why you argue with me when it comes to Bayit. Oh, but the Chalapachas be measured to me when it comes to Ilan and Sada, that there the fruits and the things should become hegdish. So that, but now he's not limiting his argument to that. Is that how you learn Pshat in the Braisa? But Tanya learned elsewhere. Rabbi Yasi said, Ein ani roya. Rabbi Yasi said, Ein ani roya divrei. I don't. Rabbi Yehuda, I don't like what he says regarding Soda v'Ilan. I don't like what Rabbi Yehuda says when it comes to Soda v'Ilan because of Hegel. Sounds like what's he arguing? Only by Soda and by Ilan. The Soda Ilan in the Raya. Raya. Sounds like he agrees with him. What's Rabbi saying here? The Moshe says the Rabbi is saying not needing the I like what Rabbi Yehuda says. Rabbi Yasi likes what Rabbi Yehuda says. In other words, Rabbi Yasi and Yehuda agree. Don't make him. No, Rabbi's trying to tell you. Don't make a mistake and think Rabbi Yasi argues and everywhere. No, Rabbi Yasi likes what Rabbi Yehuda says when it comes to Boyd and Ashba and so on. He's only arguing by Sod Vilan. Needing divi Rabbi Yehuda li Rabbi Yasi, but not to me, but to Rabbi Yasi. Because of Bava Basra, he is made that the water is not mekudesh. So now we're talking about if it was empty, we had a machlekes of Rabbi Yasi. We say everyone agrees when it comes to a boiler and the water comes later. It's not hegdish. But the argument is by a sudden and an ilan. Says the Gemara, but I say hegdish they come in your makdish when they were empty. But later on it filled up. Moilin behen the ein moilin by measure and moil what's inside them. Okay, which is what we just learned before. Everyone agrees to that. Rabbi Loza, but Rab Shimon, Oimer, Af Moilim, and Mesher Teiflim. Rabbi Loza, Rab Shimon says you also moil in what's inside. And it sounds like, since we don't qualify, we're talking about a sudden ilan, it sounds like Shimon Loza argues on everything. across the board. Sounds like he holds that in everything. It's moil b'mesher b'toichen. That's what it sounds like. Says Rabbanon. Even though the Braisa didn't qualify, we're going to learn the Braisa the same way we learned the previous Braisa. That they're only limiting their argument to a case of Sadav Ilan. The Tanakama is Savla Krabuda. Tanakama Krabuda that even a Sadav Ilan, the fruits that come later, does not become Hegdish. He doesn't hold the Gedula Hegdish. It's only a Goydim. It's a bit, you wouldn't Makdish it. And to make it Hegdish, you have to make it directly Hegdish. And Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, Savla Krabuda. He holds like Rabbi said, no, because it came from Gedula Hegdish, it's also Hegdish. But when it comes to Bava Basra Daf, we only have two machlekes, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. Hashem Elazar agrees with Rabbi Yossi that the tree and the thing, the fruits also become hektish. Abaye is not happy. Says Abaye, Velahoda Tanya, we learned. Said in another brayse, if you makdish them when they were full, is moilin behen uva meshav teichen. Now, this is a continuation of the previous brayse. You're telling me the previous brayse is only talking about Ilan V'Sada. We're not talking about Bava Basra Daf. That's what your Rabbi just said. Bava Basra Daf, everyone agrees, is not kolel, the water that comes in later. They're only arguing on the fruits that grow later. Okay, so the brayse then continues. What about Hegdeshim Malayan? They already were there. So the chayda, what we're talking about here, we're talking about the tree already has the fruits on it. Now remember, we learned before, if you sell a tree that has fruits on it, the fruits are included in the sale. But that's what we're talking, or a field that has growing on it. We talked about maybe if it's ready to be cut off, what happens then. But while it's still growing and it's part of the ground. So the brayse continues. Hegdeshim Malayan, whatever I talked about before, if it was already there at the time you made it hegdish, moilin behen of a measure, everything's included. Then the brayse says, Rabbi Shimon says it's the other way around, which means that if the tree already had the fruits will not become hegdish. Absolutely doesn't make sense. Where the tree does not have the fruits, but it will come around. You tell me that's going to be hegdish. If the fruits are there, mamish, right now when you made hegdish, sure the fruits are tough to the tree and becomes hegdish. If you're going to tell me that the brayse is limited, we're only talking about a Sadav Ilah, we're not talking about the other one because everyone agreed, like Rabbi learned, Amai Machlif, doesn't make sense. Why would Rabbi Lazar say, when the tree does not have any fruits on it, and I was marked as a tree, but the fruits one day will grow, so it's as if it's part of your hegdish. But if the fruits are already on the tree when you make the tree hegdish, or whatever you call it, it's not hegdish. It doesn't sound right. Elam Rabba. So Rabba was deterred by his question. He said, "Okay, you're right. Bachlek is with Bava Basra Daf. That fakert. A third opinion now that they're actually arguing about Bava Basra Daf. That Rabbi Shimon Elazar holds that by a Bava Basra Daf, Rabbi Shimon Elazar holds Bava Basra Daf, if the water wasn't there yet, the water will become a kuddush. If the water that you makish a boy, and water comes in later, the water will become hektish. But if there was water ready in the boy right now, the water is not hektish. What's the logic in that? But at least here, the water didn't come from the boy. The water is separate from the boy. And I didn't mention a word about the water. Remember, if you hold like moicha b'ayin moicha, you limit to whatever you're saying. I was only makdish the boy. The water is right there. I didn't mention a word about the water. I just said the boy. Says Hashem Elazar. In that case, the boy is mukdish and not the water. We'll see. But maybe the other way around. But we'll see in a minute. Yeah. So the Gemara. So we'll see what you're talking about. If the water is mukdish or not mukdish. Maybe see in a minute. So the Gemara is. Over my plea. Okay. Sorry, should go on. That everyone is moed. Now the Gemara says the boy was shaved, but it couldn't my pligi. So Rav Shimon Elazar holds the other way around. Rav Shimon Elazar holds that if you makdish a boy with water in it, the water is included, and the Tanakam holds it's not. What's going on here? Uva Malayan by my pligi, and but it can't uva Malayan by my pligi. Say. Sorry, the boy was shaved, but it can't my pligi. Uva Malayan my pligi. What's going on here? What's the argument when it's empty, and what's the argument? They're arguing in both cases, but they swap. They swap their opinions. What's going on here? But a konin pligi, if it's empty, they're arguing. Rav Shimon Elazar says if it's empty, he says machlif. I hold that it does not become a kuddush the water if it's empty and the water coming later. You know why? Because I hold Can be magish. The plug on Meirabon. And the Kamas of a look at Rabban and the wad, ain't other Makadav Shalbailam. So sorry, when it's empty, the Tanakh I'm thinking again. When it's empty, the Tanakhama says that you are Makdish Mashib, you're not Makdish Mashib and Abelazar says you are. Why are you? Because he holds that Rameh that Zav Shalbailam is a Kenyan. But Abelazar Shimon made other Makdish Shalbailam. When it's empty, the water's not there yet, it will come later, it becomes a Kurdish. Before we go to the next chapter to understand why the Shimon Lazar changes opinion if the water's there already. When does the mayor say going pay this decal the us? That is definitely going to come. Who said that will come? How do you know you'll have water? Which is a very difficult question. It rains. You always know. And I just saw how they're going to drink. How do they survive? Obviously, if there's rain seasons, the water definitely will come in. Why is Paytas more definite if there's no Paytas hanging in the tree right now? Why is it more definite than water ever coming into the boat? One day water will come into the boat. Just like Paytas one day. Yeah, Paytas. Yeah, but that's what we say. This opinion, these people don't care. They're just saying is when I was makdish the boy, I also meant to be makdish anything that will come into the boy later. I said davar shalom b'laylam, so that's the machlekes. And Hashem Elazar holds a davar shalom b'laylam like Rameh works. So before Gemara explains the other one, I don't understand. But when do we say davar shalom b'laylam works like Paytas dekel that avidid the asi will definitely come around? But water, who said it'll come around? So this is the problem that the Rishonim have with this Gemara over here, and there's different ways of learning Shat in the Gemara. But the one shot is that the Gemara is saying okay. So Rashbam says that even though Rameh first all never said Peiris Dekel, like I told you before. So Rashbam said, but the case of La'achash Shtachri, that'll become a Geir. Shtachri is talking about a case where the Baal Boss told him the Fedish, I am going to set you free. The Geir, because he knows that he wants to come a Geir. So that's like Avida to us. Pace and other Shayim learn that this is a big difference. When do we say Avida to us? There's no fruits in the world right now. So how can you sell something that doesn't exist? You only can do it if you know for sure it's going to come around. Payments come around every year. In the case of the gate of Rameya, there we don't need Avida to us because the person is right here. The person that we're talking about, the man and the woman, they're both here right now. His status doesn't allow him to get married, so he's changing his status. It's Bola Olam already in a way. It's much more Bola Olam than the case of Paytas. So when do we need the word Avida de Asu? Only when this mamish not in the world right now. There's no fruits here, so we say, but then definitely the fruits will come. That's good enough. In the case of Rameir, where you're talking about after I become a gate, after I become free, because the Eved or the person we're talking about, who's talking to the woman, is right here, right now, it's much less of a loy Bola Olam. Therefore, you don't need Avida de Asu to make it work. Anyway, but the question I just asked you, there's no water, so we'll come back in a minute. Omar Rava says, Rava, Mishkach is la b'mayim haboyim derech hatzeder leboir, v'yoinim haboyim derech shoyvchel l'shoyv. You know what we're talking about over here? That the water, before it hits the boir, first lands in his chutzner, and then from his chutzner, it goes into the boir. And so what? And he has another dovecot right next to this one, so the birds first come to his and go there. What's the Gemara trying to say? So these are showing very nicely. The Gemara's answer is, because another question, how it's not in the Shalom. By the time it gets to the boy, it's no. When is the Shalom Koina? Not now. When it's Bola Olam, then you are Koina, and you cannot change your mind. So the Chayda, but by the time it's Bola Olam, the boy is no longer mine. The boy belongs to the Hegdish. So how is my kinyan going to be chal on something? Right now it's not chal because it's not here. When it comes into the world, it's sitting in the boy, in the waters, in a boy that belongs to somebody else. So how does my kinyan take effect? And they learn that's what the Gemara's question is. That's the Gemara's question. Of course it's going to rain, but the rain is not yours. The rain is not yours. The rain, and when it does come into the Elam, it falls straight into the boy, which belongs to Hegdish. So how is your kinyan going to be effective? So Gemara's answer is no. We're talking about the water. You have a drain, whatever it is, next to it. It lands first in your chutzah. So you're kind of the water because it's in your chutzah. The yoinim go first in your shayvach. So you're kind of the yoinim in your shayvach. The moment I'm kind of, the Hegdish is chal, and then it runs off into the bird. Then it flies into the other one, and that's Gemara's answer. Okay, so that explains the machlekes when it comes to when it's empty. What's the machlekes is full, and why does she allowed to swap around here? He says now it's not kindness. So the Gemara, you only said the word boy. I said I am makdish the boy, and you remember that Shimon holds that hegdish is no different than mechira moicha ba'ayin raw moicha. And just like when you sell a boy, if it's full of water, the water is not included because I'm only limiting to what I said. Same thing by hegdish. The obvious question that is, our mission just said yesterday, mocher saboy, mocher mayim. The mine is included. What do you tell me? My so we'll see in a minute. Says the Gemara, he this boy stop. Rabbi Lazar says if the water was in there, it does not work. Why not? But his father, it had to be compared hegdish to a person. Madin hedye, just like by an ordinary person. It is a boy full of water. By when I sell you the boy, since I only sold you the boy, not the water. So so to by hegdish, I only gave you the boy, not the water. Ain't done and didn't go in your hedges. Even if you're right, when it comes to a hedges and you sell a bird, the water's not included. But hedges, you're generous. It's like matana, where you give everything. Freddie, what are you talking about? But in hedges, are you telling me that by hedges there's no kinyan? The water's not included. But now we just learned in our Mishnah, mocha boy, mocha meimah. You sell the boy, you sell the water. The author of our Mishnah is only Rab Nosson. The time we learn mocha boy, loy mocha meimah. The Tana Kama says that if you sell a boy, the water is not included. And Rab Shimon follows the Rabbanon that says that the water is not included by saying by Hegdish. If I was makdish a boy full of water, I only mentioned the boy, not included. Rabbanon says mocha boy, mocha meimah. Our Mishnah is Rab Nosson. I'll take you to show you who the halacha is like. You pause.